Hey guys, it's Lefty back again with YouTube Talk. This time, not the end of YouTube, not Doomsday related. I'm gonna call that whole thing that we dealt with last month. I'm gonna call that Doomsday, not Doomsday related. This is actually kind of tech related. It's pretty cool, and I have some questions for YouTube or about YouTube, but the very fact that we're having this conversation, I still think is really cool, and the technology involved is obviously well beyond my complete understanding. But I know enough to know that it's really cool that we're having this conversation. So keep that in mind throughout this video. But YouTube has been started to roll out in their video streams the ability for uploaders and you guys, the viewers, to watch better than 1080p resolution. For a while there was 1440p, there was Source, which was, I believe, better than 1440, but they couldn't really classify it, so you could watch it at a Source resolution in YouTube's player and whatever their YouTube's phantom bitrate is. I wonder why they're so secretive about that, but you could watch they've been rolling out slowly greater than 1080p resolutions. Well, now they're beginning to roll out 4K resolution. That's 4 times the pixels of a 1080 resolution, 1920 by 1080 resolution image. Four times the pixels, 4K, which is sweeping. You've probably already seen 4K if you've gone to a movie. You've seen it. But if you're running SLI 780 Ti's or three-way SLI or quad SLI GeForce Titans or whatever the AMD answer is, the R290X, I want to say, something like that. I'm sorry, I'm an NVIDIA fanboy. Just deal with it. Although AMD, I'm not saying they make inferior products or bad products. Probably inferior in some senses, but not bad products. Oh, great. Now everybody's going to be pissed about that. Oh, this company I like arbitrarily. You have upset my sensibility. But anyway, you can 4K game, and you've probably seen it. Well, now YouTube is rolling out the ability for content creators to bring you 4K. Now, that's really cool. And I'm sure there are a few places, a few outlets that are utilizing the ability to 4K. I know Frankie on PC in 1080p is no longer just Frankie on PC in 1080p. He is now Frankie on PC in 1080p and also 1440 and also 4K and all this stuff. And so it's really cool. And there's probably a few, professional YouTubers have the ability to, spring for a 4K camera and have the internet bandwidth and the computing power to render and edit 4K, render 4K, upload in 4K, and send and bring you guys 4K content. And the idea is obviously 4 times the pixels. There's a whole lot more resolution, and some people may quibble, and it's like, well, if it's still in the YouTube player, that's not really. What is that going to do? Full screening 4K videos now will be a thing. So full screen won't really look very bad, hopefully. And then further on down the line will probably be bigger and bigger players that, you can hook your YouTube and full screen it to like your TV or something. And 4K will allow the resolution and the pixel density to be like, oh man, it looks awesome. It looks really cool. But I have a few problems with 4K. Or at least YouTube bringing out 4K. Now, 4K in itself, again, 4K is cool. It's awesome. Pixels are awesome. More pixels equals better time, had by all. But I have a problem with YouTube rolling out 4K resolution because it seems like they're another case of YouTube rolling out a feature and rolling out functionality that not many people were asking for and that not many people are going to utilize. This makes me beg the question now of YouTube. Now that you're rolling out 4K, where's 60 frames per second? Why can I not upload 60 frames per second video, and why can my viewers not see my videos in 60 frames per second? Why do you cap it at 30? Why does your own encoding or transcoding, I think it's called, trans, but why do you cap it at 30 frames per second? Because I stream a lot to Twitch TV. And my frame rate is 60 frames per second where available. Obviously, some games don't run. DayZ comes to the top of my head. It's just the game doesn't run at 60 frames per second. It's a poorly optimized engine, so you're going to get whatever. But source frame rate up to 60 frames per second. That's what I stream at, and I do that for a few reasons. One, I I like watching 60 frames per second content. That's why I'm a PC tech elitist, and why I want a lot of the newest and best video cards whenever I can afford them, because I like playing the best games on the best settings at a very, very smooth frame rate. That's one of the reasons why I was drawn to COD originally, was because they locked their frame rate at 60 frames per second, even on the Xbox 360, and I was blown away by the smoothness that it brought, both to just the visual aesthetics and the gameplay itself. So I like 60 frames per second. So I think, well, if I like it, there's probably more people that like it. So I bring on my Twitch streams source frame rate up to 60 frames per second. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from people that are like, yes, 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 I love seeing gaming content in 60 frames per second. 30 frames per second, at least for me, when I go back and watch streams in 30 FPS or videos on YouTube in 30 FPS, I can watch them, of course. It's not like they're unwatchable. I'm not that much of an elitist douche. But there's a noticeable difference. I'm like, oh man, I really wish this was greater than 30 frames per second. I really wish I could see the smoothness of, let's say, a Call of Duty 4 video or Rising Sun. I uploaded gameplay from that, and I have more gameplay yet to come. And I'm like, man, if people could just see this game at 60 frames per second, it's so cool. And the reason I have an issue with YouTube rolling out 4K but not rolling out 60 frames per second is because seeing 4K content and viewing 4K content, there are many, 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 many large hurdles to get there. Number one, I mentioned it earlier. I touched on it, but I want to expand on it a little bit. Native 4K content is pretty hard to come by. Oddly enough, gaming is probably where you're going to see the most 4K content right off the bat, because 4K cameras are fucking expensive. But comparatively, getting two 780 Ti's and putting them in your PC and gaming at 4K on a 4K monitor is probably a whole lot less expensive than a 4K a camera that can capture at 4K resolution. But that's still a big hurdle, because you have to have, like I said, the computing power to game at the resolution. You have to have the ability to record at the resolution. We're talking about 4K. And you also have to have the ability to edit and render, which is a lot of computing power, big file sizes. You also have to have the ability to upload that big file size. And it can be done, obviously. I'm not saying it's impossible, but with each and every level, each and every exception, we say, well, you got to have this and you got to be able to do this. It narrows down, it whittles down the amount of people that are actually able to use that functionality effectively. And this is to say nothing of the fact that YouTube's bitrate cap, which a lot of people speculate, is a lot less than you need to actually view things in 4K, to actually make use of the resolution, because you can upconvert whatever you want to 720 to 1080. A lot of COD gamers do that, where they capture a game at 720 and then they just render it in Sony Vegas in 1080, and then boom, you got 1080 content. Well, not really. You've just upconverted 720 content, which isn't. There's no more pixels. The image is no more sharper than the original 720 image, and there's no more data. You're capped by your data bandwidth, the bitrate. And if YouTube isn't bringing, a lot of people are speculating that 4K over the internet is going to necessitate 20 to 30 megabit per second bitrate. 20 to 30 megabit per second bitrate. Think about this. What is your download speed? When you go to speedtest.net, what's your download speed? What is it? Is it greater than 20 or 30 megabits per second? What percentage of your total download rate would a theoretical 4K video stream eat up? And YouTube's not even bringing you that. And besides all that, besides the native 4K content, the rendered in 4K, the uploaded to 4K, and the bit rate, both from YouTube and you needing 4K capable bit rate, or piping, let's call it. That was an odd motion. Besides all that, you need a 4K monitor. How many people have spent $500+ Asus just announced, I think yesterday, they announced a 4K monitor that is going to be priced at about $800. It's really cool, by the way. I really want it. But do you have an $800 4K monitor? Now, okay, maybe some of you do, right? You're the big bad tech guy and you can afford all that. Great for you. How many other people can do that? How many other people that watch YouTube on a semi-regular basis have cleared all those hurdles where we are right now can make actual use of 4K, because I can go to a video and turn on 4K right now, and I'm not actually seeing any more pixels or anything like that because my monitor can't effectively recreate the resolution. YouTube says I'm playing in 4K, but I'm not really viewing it. So how many people can actually make use of that functionality? Not many. But you know how many people can make use of 60 frames per second? A lot more. A lot more people have monitors. I believe 60 hertz refresh rate is pretty much the standard now for a lot of PC monitors, a lot of laptop monitors. A lot of people can see 60 frames per second. It doesn't require a whole lot of bandwidth to do 60 frames per second. In fact, you can just pipe in 60 frames per second to any normal 5 megabit plus video stream, and boom, there you go, 60 frames per second. So originally I wondered, well, YouTube caps at 30 because there's so many people that upload to YouTube, and the file sizes can get huge if you want to maintain pixel or if you want to maintain image fidelity. When you upload at 60 frames per second, the file sizes are probably going to get bigger with a bigger bit rate. So yeah, it's probably a smart move to just not even allow it. But that's all blown out of the water now that YouTube says, yeah, bring on 4K, bitches, because it's just like, well, okay, not many people can actually make use of 4K functionality, but I think a lot of people can make use of 60 frames per second, make use of that functionality, because when I do it, when I do it on Twitch, and I see a lot of other people do it on Twitch, nobody really has that much of a problem consuming 60 frames per second content, and a lot of people seem to really enjoy it, and I want to bring it to you. I love creating 60 FPS content on Twitch, but I want to bring it to you guys too. I want to be able to make content, whether it be from live streams or original content for YouTube. I want it to be able to be shown at 60 frames per second. Let's say one day I get a 1080p camera that can do 60 frames per second. I would really like to do that. I want to go film stuff at 60 frames per second in 1080p. But for some reason, YouTube is rolling out functionality for 4K, but still doesn't support 60 frames per second. And I'm wondering why that is. It doesn't seem, I don't know. It seems, again, like YouTube rolls out functionality that is cool, technologically speaking, really cool, but not a lot of people make use of it. A lot of you right now could probably watch 60 frames per second content, no problem, but for some reason, YouTube doesn't want to support that. I don't know why. Not a knock against YouTube. It's just interesting, something to think about when you go around perusing content and people proclaim that they have the best, edited. I'm sure Frankie on 1080 and 4K, 1440. I love his videos. Great content, right? But he could probably make a whole lot of use out of 60 frames per second too, and his content would look that much better with a very simple fix. I'm assuming that technically speaking, bringing 60 frames per second to YouTube is a lot more simple than bringing 4K resolution to YouTube, even though YouTube's bandwidth cap doesn't technically allow for full 4K. So something to think about when you view content and you're wondering why a lot of people have the ability to render and upload in 4K but don't, because it sounds cool, but it's a really, really hard process, and it makes you wonder, or at least me, why there isn't 60 frames per second support, because I can do that. And a whole lot of other people, a lot of people that are better than me at video games, at rendering, at editing, a lot more people and a lot more talented than me can do 60 FPS really easy, but YouTube won't support it. And that sucks, because I think it's a really simple thing to make content a whole lot better. And I think a lot of you, even though you may not seek out content specifically because it's 60 FPS, when you see it, you're like, oh man, that's nice. 60 frames per second, it's really smooth, and it's like I'm playing the game, or it's like I can see everything happen. It's a lot more smooth, and it looks a lot more tight on my screen. So I think a lot of you can make use of that, and a lot of you would like it, but maybe someday in the future, hopefully soon, YouTube will wake up and say, hey, let's bring 60 frames per second too, because while 4K is cool, not many people are going to be able to make use of it for a few years at least. Anyway, guys, that's my time. I got to get out of here. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to drop a like on this video. If you did enjoy, it does help me out. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed. I'm out. Peace.